Post-eclipse greetings, dear Astro friends. I'm recording this video for the week, just a few hours after the total solar eclipse. So how has it been for you? Were you at one of the places on the path of totality, which have been really exciting? Or maybe you were born on one of the places on the path of totality, which would also have this eclipse having quite a special effect on you. So I'm sure you're tuning in one way or another. Maybe you saw the eclipse as a partial one, away from the totality path, which we could see here, even here on the Pacific Northwest coast. Even here we could see about 25 to 30% eclipsed. So quite a bit of the solar disk was sort of bitten out. And luckily, just before the rain set in here later this afternoon, there was just a very light cloud cover. So with the eclipse shields, with the filters, with those so-called glasses, you could see actually that effect. And of course, wonderful time to meditate, to tune in, to really not just set intentions, as sometimes happens in our culture with the association with the new moon, but also being receptive. What this eclipse wants to bring to you. So one big piece that is clearly, even in the chart, quite a gift of the eclipse is its connection with CHIRON. I show you the chart again and then I say a few words about that. So here is the eclipse chart again, viewed from Victoria, where I am. And here you can see anywhere actually where you have a chart for the eclipse, you would see the alignment of Sun, Moon, yes, with the North Node, that's the eclipse factor, and also CHIRON. So CHIRON gets super activated by this eclipse. Both the Moon and the Sun met CHIRON today, passed CHIRON today. For the Moon once a month, but for the Sun only once a year. And here as a new moon with the eclipse, super special. So definitely a new healing, renewal, and also warrior medicine, which is CHIRON in Aries, activation by this eclipse. And it's the warrior that carries the medicine of authenticity, carries the medicine of new beginnings, and defies the wounds of war, right? So we need less war, but we need better Aries expression. And Aries expression is authenticity, is boldness, is courage, is standing up for yourself, showing up as yourself, being truly you. If more people did that, there would be probably much less war. So what's going on with CHIRON? I want to say a few words about CHIRON in Aries, since it came up also in some readings in the last while and in some discussions, including some online exchange, right? So CHIRON in Aries. What's with CHIRON in Aries and why does it affect especially people around 50 right now? Because CHIRON has its orbit is it's a pretty much a 50-year orbit. Chiron is a planetoid, a small planet orbiting between Saturn and Uranus, and it has a highly eccentric or irregular orbit. So it is in some signs much longer than in others. But pretty much around every 50 years, it comes back to its original position, which also means when you are around 50 years old, you have your Chiron return. And when an event or a country, for example, is multiple of 50 years old, then it also has its Chiron return. Why am I saying that? Because the US, where the eclipse went straight across, has exactly its Chiron return right now. So the current Chiron and the US Chiron are not even a degree apart, right? This is super super relevant for the US and often neglected because the eclipse has so much been written about the eclipse, but not so much about its connection with Chiron. And so wounds of war, right, as we've seen so much over time and especially lately, especially since the war in Gaza also started with the last eclipse, which was the annular, so-called Ring of Fire. Yeah, very literally relevant. Ring of Fire around Gaza. Ring of Fire annular eclipse that was on October 14th, 2023, just 1 week after the Hamas attacks and the whole start of the war, right? It's going on in Palestine right now. And so for US, again, how are the US involved in wars? What's going on with internal conflict as well? I wrote a lot about all that in my Eclipse article. In this case, also relating to Chiron in the US chart in its fourth house, which has to do with its origin, the origin of the states, how it came into being, but also its home, basically its internal affairs, right? So conflict at home that could escalate into, yeah, even more violence, even more war. We don't want that. So the eclipse is quite a warning, right? Especially as we are approaching the elections. But we need new beginnings. This is what Aries is all about. We need a fresh start. And so that is super relevant, of course, for everybody who has Aries energy and especially who has Chiron in Aries as well. And yeah, new start, Aries, but also new moon and exact new moon. And with Chiron, the new start can be a very healing, can have quite a healing effect, even though it's not necessarily easy, right? So Aries requires courage. And so the Chiron in Aries years, right? So if you wonder, do you have Chiron in Aries yourself? That would be for those who are already much older here, our elders, our super elders who are approaching 100, right? Because at age 50 and age 100, you have your Chiron return. So the previous generation there was February. You could also look at that historically, right? February 1919 until March 1927, Chiron was in Aries. Then it was in Aries from April 1968 until May 1976, and that was that generation. And now it is in Aries since April 2017 until, no, sorry, since April 17th till September 25th, 2018. I was very specific in that statement that I copied this article from, right? So basically spring, summer 2018 was the first time in Aries, and then it fully went into, Chiron fully went into Aries February 18th, 2019, and will be in Aries until June 2026. So all of this is about, yes, new beginnings and all the wounds that this entails. So we are in a so-called brave new world, very Aries, and a new world that requires lots of bravery, requires lots of, I mean, literally brave new world, right? But also, you could say also dystopian world, right? The bravery comes in as the medicine of Aries, right? So we need to be bold, we need to have courage to step forward, to do our thing, to be ourselves, and be in our authenticity and our autonomy without being too isolated, which can be the wound of Aries again, right? Because we're also having now Pluto freshly entered Aquarius, which of course says evolution, And transformation happens when we come together, right, with like-minded people, with our spirit community and soul community, all right? Pluto in Aquarius, whom we co-create with, where everybody can be themselves. Wouldn't that be great? Then, yes, Chiron in Aries, as you saw, lots of wounds here, but also the medicine of restart. I just posted something on Facebook, which was kind of a hilarious synchronistic thing that happened to me just an hour after the eclipse. I had a glitch on my keyboard. I thought I can't type anything, and all the magnifying lens or magnifying effect went out and in and stuff. I thought, oh, I must have typed some key, some maybe control key, right? So, yep, sure enough, I read a little bit about it, and when I restarted the computer, it all worked again. But the lesson here is let go of control and restart. So, speaking of control, letting go, the lessons of letting go, that would be also apropos Saturn in Pisces. So, coming to the astro weather of the week, what stands out is two factors. One is Mars in Pisces meeting and passing Saturn. So that's going to happen just in 2 days on April 10th. And Saturn brings, of course, Saturn in Pisces since last March 2023, going on until next summer, then takes a little break or goes already into Aries, and then will finally, after coming back to Pisces, leave Pisces on Valentine's Day 2026. So still for quite a while in Pisces. And one of the lessons of Saturn in Pisces is about surrender, is about letting go, and also about applying and going by spiritual teachings. So, what do spiritual teachings say, and how can we actually live by those? Right? Saturn says, "What do you do when things get challenging, when the rubber hits the road?" Right? So, where are your spiritual teachings? How can you implement them? Yet, not being on a low vibration of Saturn in Pisces, you might be afraid of everything is going down, just like even with the eclipse, right? So with the eclipse, Saturn has been still ahead of Mars, right? So Saturn ruled, so to say, right? It's like, oh my gosh, worst case scenario, what could happen here? Everything goes down, and it's gonna be a super chaos, or it's the major end time is coming, revelation, everything, also the spiritual fear mongering, so to say, right? And how can we be immune to that, right? Saturn Pisces also shows us how important the energetic immune system is, right? How can we not be affected by that and infected by that, and not letting it go more viral than it already does, right? Then, or being super overwhelmed by these media showers, as I call it, right? So less is more with Saturn. Then what's going on when Mars in Pisces passes Saturn, which will be in 2 days? So Mars is the archetype of the warrior and the ruler of Aries. So it's intrinsically linked to the eclipse while it's still back in Pisces and passes Saturn. So Mars, after passing Saturn, it will also slowly approach its entry into Aries, which will be happening on April 22nd, I believe. Let me just verify that. So April, don't have it here, but it's around that time. Okay, okay. Anyway, Mars in Pisces. Nope, still the 28th. Mars enters Aries on April 30th. Okay, a little patience. Okay. Then, yeah, so Mars passes Saturn, right, in 2 days. So this is also about the courage, the boldness, the vitality, um, overcoming the fear, restriction, heaviness, depression, low, heavy energy of Saturn, right? This could literally also be like, oh, more of these clouds, more of these heavy clouds are happening here. Spring is not fully here yet, which you could see spring here on the west coast beautifully in the vegetation and everything is blooming, but the temperature is still pretty cool, right? So Mars is a fiery planet and can also help warm things up, but it can also help us express something that's been sort of so something that were held back by, so to express that, and it can be an expression of anger, can be an expression of frustration. It's kind of a connection between Saturn and Mars, but it needs a physical outlet, especially, right? It needs an outlet that moves the energy, right, rather than blocked, right? So Saturn can be uh, literally the brake, right, that also holds us back, protects us, and says, rather say no, don't do it, and Mars says go for it, right? So the go for it factor will increase. And then what else is going on in terms of renewal this week, right? We have eclipse, we have Mars Saturn, then we have also the day after that on April 11th, we have a new Mercury, it's called. That means Mercury retrograde. We're pretty much in a halfway point of Mercury retro now, since April 1st till April 25th, will go backward, it continues to go backwards while the sun in the zodiac from Earth perspective goes forward, and the sun will pass Mercury, and Mercury goes behind the sun in the zodiac again. So that is called, it's basically a conjunction, but from Mercury coming retro, right? So it's called also, it's a halfway point of Mercury retro, and it's also called the day of enlightening insights, right? So the light comes back through the sun, just like the sun after the new moon, after the eclipse new moon. And the mind with Mercury can go on the driver's seat, but can also receive the light of consciousness, of inspiration from the sun, and communicate that, right? So a new Mercury, new insights, new understanding, especially after the eclipse, it can be super powerful. So be open to that this week. Also with the Mercury retro factor, be open for synchronicities, magic, signs out of the blue, and yeah, stuff like that, especially delightful ones. And so what else is going on this week? I have here a little cheat sheet from my the lineup of events, which I'll post also on the on Instagram. If you see this video on Instagram, or if you see it on Facebook, you can see the lineup of the major factors again. And so yeah, the other piece is now mid-Aries, right? So we're in mid-Aries, and mid-Aries has a Leo undertone. And what is that about? That's the decans or the decanates, 10-degree segments of the signs of the zodiac. So each zodiac sign has 3 of those. The first 10 degrees have an undertone of the cardinal sign in that element. And for Aries, that would be Aries. The middle, the central one, which we're in now, has a undertone of the fixed sign of that element, of the fire element, that would be Leo. And that goes on until tomorrow, the 9th. And then from the 10th on until the 19th of April, we are in the last decan or decanate of Aries, which has a Sagittarius undertone. So Sagittarius also brings more understanding, right? I just talked about the Mercury, the new Mercury effect, pretty much at the onset of that. understanding, and also being on your path. Speaking of the eclipse path, this is about being on your unique, intrinsic path of life and going for what makes sense to you, right? Which is also very Aries Sag, right? In combination. And before we're still in a Leo, and of course we had also that Leo effect pretty much by getting the eclipse having so much publicity. It's been considered by lots of people as a major show. So people traveled and did eclipse parties and all of this, even though it's not exactly about that. It's about the inner initiation that happens with it, which maybe happens nevertheless. Okay, so and then we have now the new moon as of this afternoon. New moon in Aries, and it's a wax. It's the new moon is not waxing, not visible yet, not far away from the sun yet. It takes about 2 to 3 days before we see the first sliver. So the moon is still new today, then goes into overnight into Taurus, will be in Taurus from tomorrow 4:23 a.m. on, all day tomorrow. Tuesday, Wednesday the 10th as well, until Thursday at 5:59 a.m. So pretty much all day Tuesday, Wednesday. And the Taurus moon settles and grounds the energy. This would be really beautiful, also fantastic to plant new seeds for spring, right? Couldn't be any more perfect. We had the first new moon in spring, and then the freshly waxing sort of new young moon in Taurus. Wonderful, and also to ground the energy from the eclipse. While at the same time, when the moon will be in Taurus, she will be also in connection with Jupiter and Uranus, which are also coming together very soon on April 20th, the other major event of April that not many non-astrologers talk about. But I'll write about it, and you can find an article for that and more hints in the on my various media, right? So it is all about embodying freedom, right? So Uranus is about liberation, freedom, and Taurus is about the senses, the body, our values, right? So also our values are our freedom, and our freedom is an important value, right? So a lot is going on with these two, and the moon in Taurus will activate them as well. And then the moon goes into Gemini on the 11th, two once into Gemini, interesting, at 5:59 a.m. Pacific, while also the 11th will be the day of the new Mercury, and Mercury rules Gemini. Nice alignment, right? And so that's a lighter energy, and that can also help communicate, talk to friends, talk to people about your experiences, share, cross pollinate is very Gemini, learn, listen. The moon will be continue to be in Gemini on Friday, and on Saturday the 13th at 10:45 a.m. she will enter her own abode of Cancer and will be for most of the weekend, the rest of Saturday and all day Sunday in Cancer until Monday. Oh yeah, even wow, quite long, strangely, until Monday evening, until Monday 7:24 p.m. So yeah, so really again a weekend where we can come back into our own caring, sensitive, and yeah, tending to our needs and to other people's emotions as well. Connect emotionally, be sensitive, be caring, and be in your home, right? Whatever that means, connect with family as well. And that will be a waxing moon. So that's it for the information this time. And I'd like to also pick cards this time. I thought I'll mix it up and mix up some cards, bring them into the picture. First of all, a goddess card, not the tarot cards, but the goddess cards from Susan Boulay that was gifted to me from a friend who was born under new moon, actually, in Cancer years ago. So here is Susan Boulay's deck, and interestingly, here's the hair with the moon, but I'm shuffling the cards and bringing in a card to inspire us for this exact new moon in Aries with Chiron. So let's see which goddess wants to show up today. Okay, I am spreading them out. Oops. And picking one. Here's a card. Gentle touch. Oh, this is Hathor. This is Hathor. Okay, you have to see Hathor this way. Okay. Hathor from Egypt. So, Hathor being, okay, reading the Hathor. Hathor, a nourishing great mother goddess, is the Egyptian mother of all gods and goddesses. So an original mother energy that's very much moon in Aries. Let me just turn a little bit of light on to read it better for you. Okay. Usually portrayed as a cow, she is a sky goddess, the queen of the heavens. The sun emerges from her womb, which is so interesting regarding the eclipse. Hey, the sun emerges from her womb, and the moon from her breast. She is the goddess of love, earth, beauty, and sensual pleasure, as well as the protectress of all women. In her other guise, shown here, she is the lady of the night and queen of the underworld. Interesting again with the, this way, with the eclipse. So queen of the underworld, interesting. And with the lion's head, Hathor assumes the role of destroyer and giver of death. Interesting with the eclipse again. In her leopard skin, she is the goddess of fate and fortune, and typifies the ferocity and swiftness of the animal. It also was a very swift eclipse, right? It was a relatively long eclipse for those who were on the path, but still just a few minutes, right? So swift is also very Aries, right? And swift, so a night prowler and a watcher, right? Hathor is strong. What does it say here? Okay, I have to turn it around. Sorry. Okay. Hathor is a strong embodiment of the many sides of existence. Creator, sustainer, destroyer, and all encompasses the Hathor energy, which reminds us that we too must acknowledge all parts of ourselves that might what we might call destructive is sometimes necessary to allow our creativity and our compassion to flourish. So yeah, all these expressions of ourselves. It's so interesting that the solar eclipse, when you actually see the eclipse, the moon passing in front of the sun, it looks like the phases of the moon, even though it's the sun in this case, right? That has these crescent and full crescent, full shapes. And so it's a whole cycle in a way of existence, right? that the moon shows us. And the moon being great mother goddess, original mother goddess, so turning into whether it's Hathor, whether it's any goddess in a tradition that you feel resonance with, invoking them to help you through this passage. She is a midwife, and especially with Hathor, who was in Egypt, very, very revered. I was at some point 2010, which was more than 13 years ago, at the Hathor temple together with two friends. And Hathor temple was a birthing temple also, right? Anyway, here is our Hathor card, and now I have also cards for Chiron. So again, from Susan Boulay, in this case, the animal spirit cards. Let's see what comes up. So I'm shuffling the cards again. Okay, and so these cards were also gifted to me by a friend, and yeah, treasuring them very much. And the cards come up for sessions in with clients, the goddess cards and the animal cards as called for, right? So here is the animal deck, and I'm spreading, actually I'm cutting. In this case, I'm cutting the deck. Here we go. And this is the animal that comes up. Oh my gosh, it's the same animal that was on the top before. It's the rabbit with the moon. Look at that. Interesting. Okay, hope you can see it. Okay. So much mirror effect with the rabbit. And it's symbology, power, abundance, heroism, right? Very Aries, the hero. And seasons, cycles of life. In the Chinese zodiac, we just came out of the year of the rabbit, right? We're now in the year of the dragon, and we're actually also in the month of the dragon. But it's reviewing the Chinese zodiac rabbit year of last year. The rabbit is the most propitious sign. Those born under the rabbit are thought to have considerable power. In many cultures, the rabbit is a lunar creature with feminine energies whose outline is seen in the face of the full moon, right? Um, Many Native American rabbit myths tell us that they have that the hare returning the sun to the sky and restoring warmth and protects and what the patterns of day and night and the seasons as well as prosperity. The rabbit is here in the painting is Cultus, a moon goddess venerated by the Ugric peoples of Western Siberia. Although the goddess can assume many forms, the hare is sacred to her. Wonderful. Actually, the one just below the hare is the ram. Isn't that something, right? I just love how it shows up, how things show up synchronistically with these cards. And yeah, so I wanted to show you that ram here quickly as well. But the card that came up was a rabbit, and so again, also gentleness as well as abundance, magic, all of that is very rabbit-like. Anyway, this is the end of this week's video. It was fun, and it was beautiful to tune into the eclipse energy with Chiron, and I hope that the gifts through the Chiron medicine will unfold for you as we move forward in the coming week, and even more so in the months to come, because eclipse effects, they spread out pretty much from one eclipse season to the next, especially when you have a total solar eclipse. So many blessings to you, and all the best until next time. Bye.